Superintendent Sandi Massey, thank you for joining us today. We want to talk about a number of issues, including how we got here at Beaumont ISD, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. A couple of quick questions. First up, King Collegiate. The Examiner just had a story out talking about changes coming there. You said at last night's board meeting that wasn't an accurate article, but as I read it, it kind of sounded a little bit similar to what you were describing. So just tell us what's going on with King Collegiate.
Yeah, King Collegiate is not actually changing anything at all this year. They will remain a collegiate academy just like they've always been, and they will continue to be a collegiate academy in the future. Just in the future, we will also add other layers to expand the programming there. King Collegiate does not provide any kind of sports right now. We will not be using it as a place that does provide sports, but there are other magnet type schools such as fine arts, the performing arts, the visual arts, tech, that we would like to bring in to make the scope of the school broader and to allow other high school students who maybe not be so interested in sports but are interested in access to college, but are also hobbies in visual and performing arts and technology. So we want to provide just another school that, right now they hold 370 kids. We'd like them to hold between 700 and 1,000, as many as we could provide opportunity for that is more toward their zone. That is a year planning, and so it's not going to happen right away.
And at the other two campuses, were we doing something new there too with college preparatory?
Yes, so right now, Beaumont United and Westbrook, if they have students that want to do early college, they only have two options. They go to the early college at King, which means they don't get to do sports or band, or they stay at Beaumont United or Westbrook and they don't get to do the early college programming. So they can do dual credit classes, specific classes, but they don't get to move on a pathway to getting their associate's degree prior to graduating from high school, which is what collegiate is for. So we want to provide a school within a school model for both of those high schools, which I was a high school principal in Dallas, and we did this model in my school. It's a great opportunity for kids who want to do band, who want to do sports, to still be able to have a college experience and graduate with an associate's degree and still play sports, get scholarships for sports, do band. It's just, it opens up doors for both of those other schools.
Trying to make sure that they can still do these extracurricular activities and have access to college preparatory.
That's right.
Understood. Yonder pouches, $250,000 I think is what we spent on those. Not going to use them anymore. What happened there? Were they just too easy to break into?
They actually are quite easy to break into, and if you are determined enough, you will find a way. It's not that we're not going to use the Yonder pouches. We actually are going to use the Yonder pouches. We're not going to use them in the same way they've been used in the past. In the past, every kid threw their phone into a Yonder pouch. What we learned from that is that many students don't put their real cell phone in the Yonder pouch. They put a fake phone in the Yonder pouch and they keep their real phone on them. All it does is contribute to this idea that a student can challenge themselves in the wrong way, which is, I'm going to get my phone out of here. I'm going to use my phone. And it doesn't solve the problem of teaching them how to self-regulate themselves, learning how to discipline themselves in usage of the phone. It is a state law. We're not going to break the state law. Students will be held accountable if they use their phone on campus, and that's where the Yonder bags come in play. So if they do use their phone on campus, it will go into a Yonder bag, and it's going to sit in the office for the remainder of the day in a Yonder bag. And then there will be other disciplinary actions related to cell phone usage, but the Yonder bags will only be used if it's necessary to use it. If the kid cannot regulate their own use of the phone where it's not being used on campus, then we will use the Yonder bag.
So they need to keep these phones out of sight, in other words.
Out of sight. They can't even be on their person. They have to be in a backpack, out of sight, turned off from the moment they walk into the campus to the moment they leave the campus.
Superintendent certification. I think you told us when you came here that you were working on that. Where do we stand on that?
Yeah, so when you're in a program, the program is, all of them are different. My program in particular forces you to take a practice test, and you take that practice test until you get an 85. And then once you get an 85, they release you to take the real test. So I got my 85 this summer. That practice test takes 5 hours. It's very hard for me to even find 5 hours to put on a practice test, but I did it. So I will sign up to take the test probably for maybe around October after school gets started, and I can kind of like let my mind relax for the start of school.
Did you have to do this? Why'd you do this? Was this to ease people's minds around here?
I mean, I actually signed up for my superintendent course before I ever knew I was planning to be a superintendent. I did it because I just enjoy growing. I like to expand my thinking. I didn't really know if I would be a superintendent, but I signed up for the course probably in June, the year before I got the call to apply for this position. So it took me a whole year to get through the course. I finished it in June this year and took my practice test. And then, yeah, I want to do it because it's necessary to just continue to show that you're also working towards certification. The law requires that teachers be certified in core content by 2029, and I need to model what that looks like.
Moving on, teacher vacancies. There's been a big push to get new teachers in the door here. How are we standing with vacancies right now as we go into the new year? How's the progress been on hiring new teachers?
So officially, there's still 80 vacancies in the district. Unofficially, we have about 16 positions right now that we are putting in the system, checking background, making sure officially that they can be a teacher in the district. So we think in another day or two we will be down to about 65, which is great. It's not where we want to be, but we're also looking at enrollment numbers and our projections for that. We're probably going to raise class sizes a couple of kids per class so that we can move students into classrooms where we know there is a teacher and take that other teacher and move them into a class where we know we have a vacancy. So until we get all the vacancies filled, we have some other ways of maneuvering to ensure every kid gets the right instruction on the first day of school.
Okay. My last kind of question before we get into the strategy of where we're going and where we are right now. School buses, that can kind of surprise you after the first day of school starts. How are we doing on school bus drivers? Are we ready to go on school buses?
We will be ready to go on school buses. We're still looking for all the drivers that we need, but we have substitutes ready to go. We have a plan B for the substitutes ready to go. I have like 10 people waiting in the wings with their CDL that work in the district in case we need bus drivers and we don't have all the seats filled. We did get new buses this year. We have 10 new buses, so we're excited about making sure that our routes are with buses that are going to not fall apart when we are driving kids to school. And probably the most exciting thing that I'm really excited about anyway is that the first 2 weeks of school, that first 3 days of the first week, and then the whole next week, we're going to have what we call bus buddies. So an adult that's on the bus at every single stop so that they can help students navigate, whether it's their first year in Beaumont ISD or first year in school, or navigate just going to a different school from elementary to middle or middle to high school, helping them know where their stop is. And we're hoping to even have their schedules on that clipboard with the bus buddy so that the bus buddy can actually hand out their schedules right on the bus to them, and they kind of have an idea of where they're going before they even get to school.
You'll have volunteers on the buses, so it's not just the bus driver trying to...
That's right, yeah. And a lot of it will be district employees, but we do have other people who want to volunteer. Of course, they're going to go through a background check, make sure they're safe to be in front of kids, and then we'll train them.
Anything else that you want people to know before we go into the school year?
Well, pay attention to social media because we have a series of videos coming out that will help you navigate the beginning of a school year that may feel a lot different to people. So the first one should be coming out in the next day or two, which is about registration and getting your kids enrolled. This is a really important process to just making sure we do have right numbers in classrooms and we can move teachers around where we need them based on our numbers. So we want our parents to pay attention to that, look for those flyers on our social media, and there's a QR code that will take you right to the place where you can register and get enrolled. And if you're new, it takes you to a process. If you're returning, it takes you to a process. So get enrolled.
How are we doing on the enrollment, the registration here as we head into the new year? Still a big push?
Right, yeah, of course. We have just over 4,000 students that are technically in the system for enrollment, and about 5,000 of those have already enrolled. That's what the numbers look like right now. We have a dashboard where I'll look every single day and see where we're doing in enrollment as we get closer and closer to August 12th. But yeah, we're kind of on the normal trajectory for people who haven't seen the process yet. Once this new video comes out, I think I think we'll see more enrollment.
On your July 23rd Board of Managers meeting, you gave a pretty intensive presentation that really kind of summed up how we got here in many ways, looking at the school grades, the grades that we've had for the various campuses for the past few years. And you laid out goals for where we need to be going. And then you also laid out a strategy for how to get there, is how I would explain it. So, very briefly, how did we get here to where we have the state come in, take over the district, and here you are here leading us now?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that the scores that I showed last night, I want to remind everyone those are preliminary. So August 15th, we'll get the real scores, which look a lot like what I showed last night. They wouldn't send preliminary if they weren't right at close to real. You might see a point jump here and there, but for the most part, that is the real scores for the schools. If they're an F, they're an F. If they're a D, they're a D. And the trajectory, when you look at each domain in itself or as a whole group of domains with an overall score, they all tell the same story, and that's that it's not one school that is failing over a 5-year period, which is the cause for intervention, is at least one school in a 5-year period failing over and over. But when you look at the trajectory, we have many schools that have been failing for many years. I showed a 4-year trend last night, and there's many schools who've been on a 4-year trend. So maybe not the 5th year, but they certainly have been on a 4-year trend. That is nothing to be excited about, that you have one school on a 5-year trend. When you have, right now, it looks like from the preliminary scores, we'll have 17 schools out of 22 that are D or F. That is nothing to compliment. That is something that we have to work hard to get out of. And I can't tell you how we got there, because that wasn't where I was. I was somewhere else. I'm here now to solve where we're going.
It seemed like you focused on there was something that was lacking in an instructional system that was not standardized. That's what I was getting out of your presentation last night. And by the way, the folks at home can watch that full presentation on YouTube. It's on BISD's YouTube channel there. But, and forgive me if I have this incorrect, I think 27% of third graders were at proficiency for their level, and I think in math it was around 23% there. And I believe that was district-wide the way I was reading that. So.
Yeah, that's not district-wide. Well, that is all of the third graders in the district,
right.
Just third grade.
Where do you want to go? Because again, you laid out some pretty, I'd say, aggressive numbers. Maybe aggressive isn't quite the right
I would
word.
say it's aggressive. It's dramatic.
65% in 5 years, 2031. I think that was third grade reading level, and 60% on math proficiency for the third grade level. What else? What other goals should people be aware of?
Well, those are the two big ones. That's what the board will be tracking for the next 5 years. It's the two most important goals that you could have, and I actually love that the state requires that the goal be based on third grade. When you first hear third grade, and that's the first year you take a state assessment, it's what I think most districts fail to recognize, is they look at third grade and just look to see, did we hit our goal for third grade? And then you're also looking for all the other tested areas across the board for general goals. But for the goals that the board tracks, it's only third grade. I think where the mistake comes in is when you fail to recognize that third grade is based off of a foundation that comes way before third grade. That's pre-K, 1, 2, kindergarten. And in pre-K, it's a choice. Parents don't have to show up for pre-K. And I'm hoping that our community in Beaumont will commit to letting their students come to our Bingman early childhood or one of the pre-Ks that exist in our elementary schools, and actually put your kids in school this time in pre-K, because we are going to model a more rigorous instruction for even pre-K. So pre-K, kinder 1 and 2 are going to get very high quality instruction. I do want to make sure that parents understand, yes, we're going to push the envelope for pre-K, kinder 1 and 2 on academics for reading and math. But that doesn't mean they're going to not color and play and cut and glue and have stations and enjoy recess. They're going to still play and carry their creativity. We want that too. So I'm not going to abandon the creative side just for the academic side. But what I absolutely must do is have second graders walk into third grade much more prepared than they have been in the past.
You've set a very high goal here.
I have.
How are we going to get there?
I actually think we're going to get there with the Project Accelerate model. We have two models happening at once. The original model is the Houston ISD model, which is 3rd through 10th grade, managing, helping those students catching up to grade level because we've already missed them in pre-K through 2nd grade. You have to do that side of it. But the other side of it is to prepare for the future, something that is sustainable. And if every 2nd grader, and I would say give it 3 years, because right now the 2nd graders are going to get this model in and of themselves. They will not have had it in kindergarten and 1st grade. They will only get it in 2nd grade. And then they will have that chance to be ahead of their peers in prior years going into 3rd grade. But if you look back at the kindergartners right now, they're going to get this model in kindergarten, they're going to get it in 1st grade, and then they're going to get it in 2nd grade. And then hopefully the parents will buy into that summer bridge, which won't take the whole summer, but a chunk of the summer, that will help prepare that bridge between 2nd and 3rd grade. The kids that get it 3 years in a row and they bridge to 3rd grade, that is a group of kids who cannot fail. They will walk into 3rd grade reading, writing, doing multiplication, understanding the connection between multiplication and division. Those are things that you normally just teach in 3rd grade. They are going to get it before they get to 3rd grade. That's going to make the test so much easier, so much less stressful. The teachers in 3rd grade are going to feel like, man, they are so ready. We can start moving them even into deeper layers of instruction and taking the rigor to critical thinking.
90% is
That's my goal.
You want 90% of 2nd graders going into 3rd grade already at a 3rd grade proficiency
That's
for
what
reading.
I want.
For reading and math, correct?
Reading and math.
And again, just so I understand how we're going to get there, is it the standardization of the instruction across the board? Because you said at last night's meeting that we can't rely just on good teachers. It has to be the same exact instruction. So every 2nd grader, 1st grader, kindergartner is getting the same instruction in every classroom in their grade level in BISD. Is that how you're going to do it?
I would say that's not exactly how. That is only a piece to the puzzle. The whole way you get an entire system to move in a direction is, first, you do have to have aligned systems. So the alignment matters. That is an aligned curriculum. But it's also having this idea of coaching in the moment where teachers aren't left to their own devices. They know that when they're teaching a curriculum that's being handed to them, they're going to have someone come in, and especially for the first couple of months, the administrators, people like me, the executive directors, are going to come in and model with them, co-teach with them, show them what it looks like to implement some of the strategies we're asking them to do. So it's the co-teaching, it's the modeling, it's the engagement strategies that students are going to be required to participate in during the direct teach time. That 50 minutes of the teacher teaching is actually broken up into a gradual release. It's a little bit of a model, a little bit of a lot of working in pairs to build your confidence, and then you have this independent time at the end. We call that gradual release. That gives students an opportunity to first hear what it's all about from the teacher. She's going to just communicate answers and help kids. All right, tell me what I communicated. What did I say? Why did I circle that? Why did I annotate that? Why did I pick that as the key point? You heard me say it, now tell your partner. All those things together, coaching in the moment, aligning the systems, having all your administrators on the same page, having every system from discipline to instruction to the way that students transition in a hallway, all of that will be aligned across every campus. Teaching 3rd grade math in this school will look exactly the same across 3rd grade math in every school. At least what will look exactly the same is the lesson. What will look different is the way the teachers deliver it. And that is, that's a nuance that you actually do want. You want teachers' personalities to come out when they're delivering that material, their own examples, experiences that they've had that they can connect with, that students can connect with them. All of those pieces to the puzzle create this opportunity for students to excel.
You had said, or in last night's presentation, monthly observations, weekly monitoring. What's the difference between those?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it weekly monitoring as much as weekly support. And it will be monitoring as well, but every single day in reading and math, and most of this, what we're talking about, is reading and math. Every other system is going to function very much like it did before, with the exception of coaching in the moment. Everyone's systems are going to be the same. Every teacher gets coaching in the moment. Doesn't matter if you're pre-K, if you're 12th grade, if you're electives, if you're CTE, if you're special education, bilingual. Every teacher gets coaching in the moment. Every teacher gets pushed to get better. Those things don't change.
Does coaching in the moment mean that there's a coach in the classroom and instruction almost stops in a way and the coaching happens right then, or just help me understand?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be where instruction stops. It would be more like a cohesive, connected approach between the two adults. So the teachers will get taught that instead of stopping instruction to tell you to do something different, it will actually feel more like, hey, Mr. Mark, I have an idea. Is it okay if I step in real quick? And then I will tell you what, I will actually address students, not you, not the teacher. I will address the students and show you what it looks like to solve the way I want you to solve, or do the engagement the way it makes the most sense for this particular activity.
Kind of a united front that you're presenting to the
united front.
students. And at the same time, you just also described some of the methods that you might use before the students even get in the classroom, having a chance to go through the lesson plan
That's right.
with everyone ahead of time. There's extra instruction time or preparation time for the teachers that y'all have built into the calendar?
So we built in an hour every single day for teachers to what we call internalize the lesson. Remember, the slide deck is actually going to be handed to them. That slide deck is already prepared completely from start to finish, including the gradual release model. In other words, a teacher will know when they have to stop modeling and turn it over to pairs for students to work together, and then turn it over to independent thinking. The slide deck will connect them to that using a color code system. So that is part of the system. The teachers before that will practice modeling their lessons in front of peers. 1 hour a week they will stay after school to do a model in front of a larger group of peers, and only one teacher at a time would do that, but they pick a teacher that's like, okay, I'm ready, let me do this in front of you guys, and then they get a lot of coaching and feedback before that lesson gets put in front of students. Even when you model in front of your peers, it's very nerve-wracking. It's a difficult thing to do, but that opportunity doesn't just teach the teacher that's practicing. It teaches all the teachers that are sitting in the audience. They're learning from each other at that moment. What's great? What do we need to work on? How can I make my lesson better by the feedback we gave this teacher? They're all making themselves better from each example of a teacher demonstrating their lesson in front of them.
The other thing that I found new in your presentation last night, specifically on Project Accelerate, was having an administrator specifically to lead kindergarten through second grade, because it makes sense if you're trying to get second graders going to third grade, already at a third grade reading level and math level right there. So anything else to explain about having that specific administrator?
Yeah, I think this is where we have failed many lower area teachers, where they see all the attention going to third through fifth grade in an elementary school. That's where you get all of your coaching and feedback and put a lot of effort into. And some first and second grade teachers might enjoy the fact that they're left alone, but when it comes down to it, I think most teachers do want to grow. Just like we say BISD students will be known, supported, challenged, and prepared, I actually think that's the same for adults. I believe every adult actually wants to be known. They want to be supported. They actually want to be challenged to get better, and they want to be prepared for their next thing. So that's what we plan to do with teachers as well. And pre-K through second grade will have a focus that they've never had before. We will treat them as just as important as the 3rd through 10th grade STAR tested areas.
How confident are you that this is going to work? How do you know it's going to work?
I know it's going to work. I know it for a couple of reasons. The first one is that I've seen it work in other districts. I was in Houston for 3 years. It worked there. I actually principaled this model in a middle school, the 3rd through 10th grade model, in a middle school for 2 years in Odessa. And in 1 year, that school went from a 58 to an 86. 1 year. Now, sustainability is the question. Kids can grow, and you get points for that. But achievement, closing the achievement gap is a whole nother question. I believe it's going to work for a second reason. One, we are putting Project Accelerate into place. When you focus in on early literacy and you solve that problem before they ever even get to 3rd grade, and at least for the majority of kids, because there are nuances that are still challenging for kids to be able to pick up on reading really fast, whether they're dyslexic or have some sort of trauma in their past. that does make it more challenging to learn, and we will work with those kids on their level. But for the most part, about 90% of second graders should be able to get to third grade level by the time they walk into third grade.
That's reading and math, correct?
Reading and math.
Shepherd ISD, that's an example of where it hasn't worked with a state takeover. What's different there versus all the other places where it has?
I really don't know. I don't know anything about Shepherd ISD other than
They're very small, I
yeah,
know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it didn't work there.
Yeah.
I know they didn't do this model because this is an original model from the superintendent of HISD. He designed it well before he came to HISD. So this is his model. It's never been done anywhere but under his purview. And there are other districts now using it because of what they've learned from HISD, just like me. So we are one of the first districts. We are the first district in the Golden Triangle to use this model. We are going to be the first that sees the results that we see. You're going to see them fast initially because we'll get points for growth, but over the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see it sustainable in achievement.
Parent engagement, very important, obviously. I didn't necessarily see that in Project Accelerate. I don't know how much you can control parent engagement, but how critical is parent engagement? If it's not there, can we still succeed?
I don't know how well any one student can succeed without a core group of adults that are behind them all the way. We had a great community meeting for about 200 people on Tuesday, and I did share this part of the vision with them. I did not share it last night. And that is that I have this dream that we will look at education and parents, much like the modern churches do small groups in a church. You have the small group of adults or kids or youth who work together and learn together and grow together. And I can just imagine if we had 20 kids in a classroom, and that means you have 20 sets of parents or near 20 sets of parents. And in that group of kids, what if you had just 6 sets of parents who said, I'm going to give everything to this group of kids that are under me for the next 3 years. They can't, their parent works at night, their parent has struggles, they're a single parent home, they live with their grandparents. I'm going to be the parent that picks up these 6 kids for the next 3 years. I pick them up, I drop them off. I won't let them miss. You need medication? One of this group of small group parents in our group is going to go get it. We're going to take care of our families. We're going to have each other's back in this small group. And if that started in kindergarten and carried through 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, we would create a culture of, we call it a village, this village culture of adults surrounding a group of kids who, if the parents can't do it for whatever reason, this other group of parents steps up to the plate and says, we're family, and we're not going to let your kid fail. We're not going to let you fail. We're going to do it together. That is true engagement. Not to say you parent aren't getting it done and you're failing. It's to say we're responsible as a citizenship, as a community, to say we'll step up and fill the gap because not everyone has the same advantages as someone else. That's the dream.
Superintendent Massey, I want to be respectful of your time here, and thank you for sharing that very personal
You're welcome.
Sentiment that you had there. I want to understand what's going to take for us to get out from the state takeover and back to local control. I think I heard you say early on that 2 years was the goal, and forgive me, I don't know what I don't know about this, but I imagine our STAR tests have to get to a certain rate.
Yes, you have to have consecutive years of no DRF schools. So that is going to take, with 17 DNF schools, it's going to take a minute. I believe that we can easily get out of D and F status within the next 3 years. What I don't want to do is say that in 3 years we will have a sustainable culture that in the long term will be very difficult to drift and regress. It's going to take more than just 3 years of growth to sustain academic achievement. And that's why we are including this heavy Project Accelerate model where the littles get so much more attention and we care to balance instruction and creativity so they don't lose that part. I'm not trying to create robots. I'm trying to develop kids into a whole person that can take care of their own problem solving, can figure out to text a parent in that little small group when the small group is over and they're a 5th grader and they're like, I know my dad from the group. I'm going to text them because my mom is sick, or my mom's in the hospital, or my dad's at work, and they're going to come get me, and that's going to happen.
Superintendent Massey, I really appreciate you sitting down with us today.
Sure thing.
I hope we can do this on a monthly basis, and you're always welcome down at the studio for this.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.